Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is my first impressions review of the BSA Goldstar 650. Now before we dive into the review, I'd like to give a shout out to BSA Motorcycles New Zealand for loaning me the bike for the summer. Please keep your eyes peeled and you'll see a few more videos coming out over the next few months. And I'd also like to say thanks to Precision Motorcycles, the local dealership down here. Thanks so much for providing the bike and giving it the service. And if anyone's looking for a BSA motorcycle in the South Island in New Zealand, go check out Precision Motorcycles. Now when I first picked the bike up, I was aware that it was a brand new motorcycle. It only had about 10 kilometers on the clock, and I realized that it needed to have a break-in period. So usually BSA recommends it needs its first service around 800 kilometers to 1,000, and I'd actually booked a trip that weekend to do about a 1,200 kilometer round trip. But I spoke to James at Precision Motorcycles, and he reassured me that if I just went gently on the engine, kept it around 80 kilometers an hour and took the back roads, I should be fine going there and back. The main thing is just ensuring you do some regular stops, go to cafes and just grab a coffee every couple of hours and just let the engine cool down and keep going. But I really felt the engine come to life around 700 kilometers. It started braking in and getting a lot smoother. In terms of braking it in, like, there was a few vibrations to begin with, just as going 100 kilometers an hour, but it's definitely smoothed out over that 700 kilometer sort of range. My first impressions with the engine was it was super torquey around town. For a 650 single, it's got a lot of lower end grunt, and that's a massive plus side for me, having come from the T100, which is also a bit of a torque monster. The Rotax engine itself is a fuel injected, liquid cooled and Euro 5 compliant engine, producing 45 brake horsepower. It's really smooth for a single and has just enough punch to have loads of fun with. I believe they are made in Switzerland or potentially made in India, designed in Switzerland. On the first day I was riding the bike, the weather was actually pretty terrible and there was loads of mist and rain and quite a lot of gusts of wind. And the bike was surprisingly very grounded. It didn't feel like it was getting blown around at all. It does weigh around 200 kgs wet, I think. And yeah, I was really confident with how it handled in the tougher weather conditions. Once I rode past the flatness of the Canterbury plains and got closer to the mountain ranges, I started noticing it handles really well on twisty roads. I think these Pirelli Phantoms tires that it comes fitted with standard are really grounded and they stick to the road really well. I just had loads of fun with it hitting the twisties. Yeah, I think just it's balanced really well, and yeah, it just handles great on the twisty roads. One of the other first things I noticed was the braking capabilities on this Goldstar. Like, it's fitted with Brembo calipers, a single disc on the front and the rear, and you just really notice it's got a great bite to them and super snatchy and just a lot of reassurance in terms of stopping power. Now the bike is fitted with a 5-speed gearbox similar to my T100, and having come from a 900cc down to the 650, I was looking for that extra 6th gear naturally because the higher RPM and revs. But after riding it for about 200 kilometers, I got used to the sound of the engine in the 5th gear and just the general gearing ratio. The Goldstar is fitted with a 12-litre tank, and the manual says it can do around 300 kilometers on average per tank, but I did find that I was doing around 220 before the petrol lights started really flashing and giving me range anxiety. I think that 300 kilometers is probably a mixture of riding in town and open roads, but during my ride that I initially broke it in on, I was just purely out on the open road. So you will need to plan your petrol stops quite carefully. Just keep in mind about 230 kilometers for the 12-litre tank. Now when it comes to the ergonomics of the BSA Goldstar, I found it's got a really neutral, comfortable seating position. It's probably more suited to people around 5'9" to 5'6" or so. I'm about 6'3" with my boots on, and I did notice a little bit of cramping in my ankles going long distance, but luckily thanks to the bench seat you can slide up and down. It's got a 780mm seat height, so it is really accessible for getting on and off for shorter riders. In terms of seat, I think it's probably one of the most comfortable stock seats I've ever sat on. It's a really plush, premium quality seat, and one of my favorite things about the bike. One of the first things I noticed when actually maneuvering the bike out of the motorcycle showroom at Precision Motorcycles was just how easy it is to maneuver around. It feels like quite a low bike with a lot of the weight obviously lower down in the center of gravity. And even when sitting on the bike and maneuvering it around, say, a car park or something, the bike feels really quite easy to manage. It doesn't feel like a 200 kg bike. I do think if I continued touring with this bike, I would likely fit some knee pads just to the tank. I'm a big fan of gripping my knees on the tank while riding, and I felt like they slid around, and I was a bit worried about damaging the beautiful chrome and the paintwork on this tank, so just for a bit of peace of mind, I'd like to fit some knee pads to the tank. In terms of the build quality of the BSA Goldstar, I think if you've ridden a Royal Enfield Interceptor or a Triumph T100, the BSA fits almost perfectly in between them. There's really premium aspects to the bike, such as the leather seat is really plush and great quality. The Brembo brakes, just the paintwork and the general fit and finish of the bike is to a great standard. Now I bet you've all been waiting to hear the exhaust note of the BSA Goldstar, and it does not disappoint. It's got a lovely burble, it's not too offensive. It's great around town. You can definitely see people turning their heads and trying to have a look at what bike is coming their way, but when you're out on the open road, you do notice you can't really hear it as much. It's not a massive negative for me, but I believe you can take out the baffle and it's meant to sound a lot better, so I'd love to be able to take that baffle out and see how it can roar. Now let's talk about the looks of the BSA Goldstar. And first things first, and I don't even need to say it, this thing is beautiful. It's such a classic silhouette, and I've caught myself riding past like windows in the past and seeing my reflection and just thinking, damn, that's a good looking bike. I love the shape of the rear fender. It comes in a brilliant range of classic colors. This was the Highland green, and I love the chrome additive it's got on the tank. And the badge itself is just so classic and iconic, and probably one of my favorite things. I absolutely love the reverse clocks and gauges that the BSA Goldstar features. It takes about 5-10 minutes to get used to seeing the kilometers per hour in an upside down format, but it's a really unique and iconic feature, and I think it really sets it apart in the modern classic world. The gauges also feature a really nice sort of yellow glow to them, which just adds to the classic aesthetic. Built into the headlight is additional features which include things like your side stand, your indicators, your ABS, etc., which is just a nice little touch. The speedometer also features your petrol gauge as well as your odometer. The one thing I think it is missing, which I'm a big fan of on motorcycles, is a clock. So I think in the future maybe BSA could look at adding a clock to there. You don't really need a gear indicator on a 5-speed motorcycle, but for some people that might be something they wanted as well. The bike also features a classic front mudguard, which is going to keep a lot of stones and mud flicking up onto your water cooler and the lower half of your bike. It also comes fitted with a sump guard as standard, which is great. You don't see that on a lot of bikes. One of my other favorite things about the looks of the BSA Goldstar is just these indicators that come standard with it. They look like custom indicators, and I just wish more brands would do this instead of like Royal Enfield has the massive indicators and Triumph does, and a lot of people go straight away and remove them and put on custom indicators. So BSA have absolutely nailed these indicators, and they're actually super visible as well. So yeah, nice job BSA. If there was one thing I could change on the looks of the bike, it would have to be the switchgear. I think it just takes away from that modern classic aesthetic, and I would have looked back at the previous models of the Goldstars and just to kind of taken some design cues from them, maybe gone with something a bit more metal or stainless steel, and yeah, just had the switchgear sort of match the overall styling of the bike. These sort of feel like they're from something from 2005, maybe like a sports bike. So they do feel good to the touch, and they're really good like handling wise, but just from a visual and design perspective, I think something more classic would have really been perfect. And if there was one other negative I'd say about the bike, it would have to be the stickers that are on the engine casings. I really think that's a missed opportunity to just bring the build quality up that extra little notch. Yeah, BSA, I think get yourself a laser cutter and get engraving those engine casings, because it'll just make the bike feel that little bit more premium. Now in conclusion, I think it's great to see the BSA brand is being revived. I know it's taken a while to get down here to New Zealand, but we're glad we finally got it. It's such a unique brand now in the modern classic industry, and I really hope that they can keep revitalizing it with launches of new bikes. I know they have just announced the B65 Scrambler, which looks absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to get my hands on one of those. But the Goldstar 650 is still a fantastic option, and I think if you can get your hands on one, take it for a test ride, you definitely should. There's so many cool features about it, like the upside down gauges, the single cylinder engine, the beautiful paint jobs, just the overall fit and finish. I think it's a great bike for the money. Also, be prepared to have some basic knowledge of the BSA brand up your sleeve, because no matter where you stop, you're going to be approached by gentlemen wanting to know about where this bike has come from, all about the rebirth of the brand, and they'll tell you stories about how they used to know someone, or they used to own a Goldstar back in the day. So it's a really great conversation starter, and that's what I love about modern classic bikes. It's just how they bring people together, and they're a great talking point for the community. So I'm really glad, as a big fan of modern classic motorcycles, to finally have the BSA Goldstar not only in my garage, but in New Zealand and down here in the South Island. So if you want to get your hands on one, go check out Precision Motorcycles here in Canterbury, or anywhere around the world that is currently stocking these BSA Goldstars. You won't be disappointed. It's a great competitor for the Interceptor, and I'll probably go into that in another video. But yeah, first impressions, it's a brilliant bike that does everything I need. I can't wait to show it to some of my friends and take it on some more tours this summer, just while the weather's great here in the South Island. If you've got a dealer around you, go check one out and take it for a test ride. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And I plan on doing a few more videos with this bike, so stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.